Full disclosure, news and commentary number 99, 99, 99, 99, 99. Number 99. If that doesn't freak you out, well, it certainly freaks me out. What's my name? Yeah, Breaking Bad. Anyway, hope you're doing well. Tomorrow night, just got the confirmation yet again on Tipping Point. We're going to have Brandon Kirk and Casey, his wife, the first couple of deathmatch wrestling, as I love to call them. They're going to be on the Tipping Point with Larry Goodman and I. This is a big full disclosure. I'm going to have to do something a little special for number 100. I've got some ideas. Don't worry. Don't worry. Commentary is about WWE and Wrestlemania, and also about all the shows that are going to be running around WrestleMania week. And a very important thing that they need to know, based on my experiences at AEW, I went to Dynamite last Wednesday. Dylan hooked me up. Thank you very much, Dylan. And it was a grand experience. And I was going to do a separate video talking about it, but I thought, full disclosure, let's just bring it all in here. There's also a number of other videos I was going to make interspersed, but I think they're actually work well within the full disclosure format. So we're just going to make this jam-packed, super cool, full disclosure news and commentary. Of course, in addition to Tipping Point, I'm going to be looking at Raw tonight. It ought to be nuts in light of Elimination Chamber. We've got Dark to look at. I already got to see a couple of matches for Dark that they recorded before Dynamite. So that's interesting to me. John Skyler was in one of those matches, so I'm certainly looking forward to him being back. I'm glad he's healed from his injury. But I'm going to look at Dark. I'm going to look at NXT. I'm going to look at Dynamite. I'm going to look at Impact. I'm going to look at SmackDown. And then I'm just going to lay it out here right now. I'm going to be covering ICW has 2 shows here in Florida on Saturday. 2. One at the Gulf Coast Center at 3 in the afternoon. That's the one in the fighting ring. That's the pit fighter show. And then at night, with the chains for the ropes at the pawn shop. No holds barred. That's at 8 at night on Saturday. And I'm going to be at both of those shows. I'm pushing that here. I'm definitely going to be covering those events. Have something to write about it. Have something to say about it. Have some video about it. I've also decided I'm going to go to No Peace on Sunday. Because a lot of the ICW guys are going to be around. So they're going to run that show on No Peace at the Sound Bar with no ring. All that madness. I'm going to that one alone. But ICW, I think Jeff G. Bailey's making the trip down, and maybe Dan as well. So that's going to be bonkers, all of us together. That's definitely going to be exciting. I'm going to try to record something with them to have as part of Full Disclosure 100. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe even do a Patreon video with those guys. Talk some shit. That's going to be huge. Speaking of huge, PWX. Let's open with that. 350 people. Standing room only. Absolute sellout. Big, huge honkin' show. 3.5 hours. Larry Goodman himself made the long ass drive and got there and reviewed the show. PWX back in the mix. Certainly a big, huge deal. And I'm sure a huge sigh of relief from Brian that they pulled that thing off. Everything seemed like it went pretty well. And then they'll be back with their X16 very soon. So, crazy. This video also brought to you by IWE, who's got their big show March 20th. Second anniversary show coming up. Lots of people have been asking me about it because I've been talking about it, and I have it in the description every single time. When their tickets go on sale, I'll have the link up for that as well. It's IWE doing big shit. And when you think about those guys, when you think about IWE and you think about PWX, you naturally think of the other part of that triangle, which is Viral. And Viral's going to be back in April. And they seem like they have their plan together. They're capping off attendance. They got their ticket prices up there. They seem like they're going for the sellout relatively early, which I think is a really good strategy. A number of places in Florida employ that. They cap off what it's going to be. They let you know how many tickets are left, and then they sell them bitches out. That seems to be the Viral plan, and I think it is a sound and a good one. And I'm glad that we got Charles here to cover IWE, to cover Viral, and to cover Livewire and that kind of thing. We're going to talk about Charles actually in a bit when I go on one of my rants. If Charles, if you're listening to this and you're nervous because you think I'm going to rant about you, no, you're actually the positive face of what I'm going to talk about in a bit. What else do we got going on? Renegade drawing 140 for an all gimmick match show where every match was like no rules, no time limit, no disqualification, craziness. They drew 140, which, again, this is a show that used to draw on 30. And throughout the last few shows through COVID have drawn at least 100. And now they're drawing 140 for one of their bigger shows. Doing something right. APW at 56. KLT, I didn't get numbers, but I'm going to assume they did huge freaking numbers because I certainly got a picture or two from that show of the crowd, and it was nuts. The only picture I got that seemed to have a crowd as big or even bigger possibly is the PWX show. That picture of that crowd, stunning, and it's so good to see. It's wonderful to have Southern Honor up in the 400s again. It's wonderful that PWX can cap it off at 350 and hit that mark. And I'm hoping everybody else is drawing big. Who else do I hope draws big? Southern Fried, which is going to be back March 20th after their long drama about, are we going to do a show or are we not going to do a show? Manders ranting against this person and against this council and At the end of the day, they got a show going on March 20th, and the plan going forward is to do one show a month. I think that's smart. Anarchy also, I've heard, is going to do one show a month, see how it goes, and if it's going really well, then maybe they'll go back to a 2-show-a-month format. Pro South had a show on February 19th. Seemed like a really great follow-up to their big show that they just did, Valentine's Day Massacre. Let's see what else is going on. AWE canceling their tapings is very sad. I know I probably brought this up last time, but I want to bring it up again. I hope whatever's going on at AWE resolves itself and they can go back to doing shows. Because again, I know that they hate to disappoint those Patreon subscribers, just like they hated to disappoint those people who bought the season tickets before. It's hard because AWE, my rant last time, which a lot of people seem to really appreciate, right, about what it takes to be great is basically delivering all the time, consistency, and AWE just having to take this time off again, it really, really hurts, and I hope they can get it together and get their thing going again. Michael Bullard, rest in peace. He's passed away. I talked to a few people about him. I'm not going to say that I was super familiar with him, but again, just another one of these guys that people seem to universally like. And in wrestling, that's a rare bird, man, but he seems to be that rare bird. Simon Sermon in particular, I thought had really great things to say about him, but a bunch of the boys as well. It seemed like if you worked for him, you had like a genuine affection for him. It seemed like he was, for, All Stars Wrestling, like fronting the money to keep them in that building. Now, maybe the rent wasn't so much, but he just wanted to be around this shit. And he really made it work. And he was very well liked. It's very sad that he passed. It's very sad that he died of COVID. It's fucking tragic. And, I'm 49. Yeah, I'm feeling my mortality most certainly. And, God. So Mike Money, I'm going to call you Mike Money, because that's the name that you went by in wrestling. Rest in peace. And to all the people who are affected by this, I'm sorry. My condolences to you as well. Tough stuff. I'll make sure we do a mention about it and have a little discussion. I think Larry was much more familiar with him than I was, so I'm sure Larry will have a few cool things to say. In addition to, we're going to have Brandon Kirk on and Casey as well. Big fans of theirs. Here's my first rant. And then I have a fun story to talk about, and then we are going to go into our commentary. So, simping. Watching people simp for the WWE is, I know I shouldn't say this, I'm going to go ahead and it's sickening. It's sickening. In the same way, watching people simp for any promotion is sickening. I love AEW, but the AEW fans that I encounter online they're the worst of the bunch. Let me say that. Overall, average AEW online fans are the worst. They justify everything. They complain about everything, but then they justify everything in the same breath. And it's sickening, right? When nothing is wrong ever. Nothing that AEW does is wrong ever. People think that is being a true fan. Is justifying and turning a blind eye to everything. But seeing the simping for the WWE lately, let me make a couple things clear from my perspective, right? If you are insisting that The Miz cashing in wasn't written on a napkin 2 hours before the show, you haven't been paying attention to anything. If you think this was some payoff to some promo that MVP cut 9 months ago, since then, by the way, Randy Orton won the title. And then Drew got it back. So are you telling me they had it booked? Folks, the stories abound. And I have people who work for the WWE who tell me much the same, that things are done very last minute. And now all information is kept cut off. So are you telling me this is part of some kind of... Look, you can enjoy wrestling. You can enjoy anything you want. You can be disgusted at wrestling fans. God knows I am all the time. But to simp for any group, to take the side instinctively of the Office against the boys at every turn is disgusting. And for wrestling people to do it, doubly so. And knowing what you supposedly should know about the things that the WWE/F have gotten away with for decades. And if your instinct is to always take their side in absolutely everything and give them the benefit of the doubt, no matter how many times you've been fucked in the ass as a fan, I don't know what to tell you, except it's sickening. And when I look at the people who I would consider peers in wrestling, meaning people who trained, wrestled, that kind of thing, who were involved in wrestling on some level, who simp for the WWE in order to try to get a gig, you know what it hasn't done before? Worked. Because it's hard to respect somebody who kisses your ass all the time. Being critical, while admittedly overdone by wrestling fans and society in general, is a necessary balance and component to what happens. To blindly simp is how we've gotten where we are politically, in wrestling, and in a million other ways. Not catering is how things get better. Television, in general, has been derided since its inception as the idiot box and seen as a much lower form of entertainment than, say, cinema. Cinema in the 70s and throughout the 80s was held in much higher regard. If you were a movie star, the last thing you would ever do is fucking television, because that's the end. That's what you do at the end of your career. But what happened? Instead of just people endlessly apologizing for television, as ratings began to diffuse throughout cable television and then to streaming platforms and things like that, and they had to fight for it, guess what happened? When they had to fight for it, television got better. Episodic television became a journey, right? Walter White of Breaking Bad was the complete different character by the end of 5 seasons than he was in the beginning. That was the point, was to see the journey. In most shows, it was the person who sitcom, situational comedy, right? Al Bundy doesn't change as a character. We just see him in different situations and how he reacts. Does that make it bad? Of course it doesn't make it bad. I love Married with Children. Love Al Bundy. But it is what it is, right? Nowadays, expectations for television is higher. And guess what has happened? It's gotten better. Way better. 20 years ago, could you have imagined the discourse that we all have about like serial killers and blah, 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 the level of documentaries that have been put out, the level of everything that's been put out as far as television goes, it's staggeringly better. You know why? Because they could have listened to the simps who apologize for everything about television. No, it's actually really good. Or they could realize that they were in a dogfight and fight to get better and artistically get better. Now, television, fuck, it's where you want to be. Right? If you can be in like a prestige show for HBO, then motherfucker, you'll get hired for a bunch of different ones. And the artistic level of the television shows happening on HBO, Showtime, even Cinemax. I mean, think about the reputations that these channels had and how it is now. And the first thing television stations on cable do when they want to raise themselves up and raise up their profile is to have original series of high quality. And now the idea of a made-for-TV movie, before it was made-for-TV movie, that's great because movies are still above television in some way. Now a made-for-TV movie is the proper place in the pecking order, which is near the bottom. This is some bullshit made-for-TV movie, right? Simping for the WWE or AEW or any other promotion doesn't mean you're going to get a job. It doesn't mean you're a better fan than anybody else. It just means you're a simp. Now, if you can turn your love into something positive, and that just doesn't mean turning a blind eye to reality or not being critical. But Charles Felder is a great example. He really wants to represent that part of Georgia wrestling. And even though some of those dummies don't seem to get that, like Livewire, don't get mad at Charles for some bullshit. Like, why would you get mad at him? He's looking for viral, IWE, and Livewire to get more exposure. So he took it upon himself. He's like, I'm going to start sending in reports, and I'm going to start sending in their major news stories and stuff like that. And that's good. That's good for them. It's good for Charles. It's good for Georgia wrestling history. And it gets everybody more coverage. Yay. However, when Charles either said this line himself or he simped for their line of viral saying, undeniably we're the top promotion. Motherfuckers, you haven't done a show in almost goddamn year. You're not the fucking top anything. And to simp for a line, like, you see what I'm saying about the simp thing? I mean, that's ludicrous, right? For us to call viral undeniably the top promotion. What the fuck? When you reach that level of non-reality, you've completely diffused your effectiveness. That's what I mean about simping. And that's what I see from people. You can like, this is subjective shit we're talking about most of the time. So you can like whatever you like. But when it reaches the level of simping, and it lets me know where your heart's at and your mind's at, that's when I can see the weakness. So I would suggest all these wrestling fans and wrestling people who for some reason act like they have some skin in the game when it comes to arguing for some wrestling thing. At the end of the day, I mean, fuck, that's what I do, is I fucking analyze shit and I argue about it and I have things that I lean towards liking and blah, blah, blah. Everybody does. Cornette, Meltzer, Brian Alvarez. All of us have like predilections of stuff that we tend to enjoy. And then we see it through that lens. But I gotta say, it is disturbing when I see people whose first instinct is to take arms against the boys and to fucking wave a flag for fucking management in wrestling. Unthinkingly. As I said yesterday in a couple of threads, the WWE is making money. There's no denying that. But for somebody to sit here, is anybody at this point arguing that they're putting out a good product on an artistic or creative level that shows indications of long-term storytelling and thinking? Get the fuck out of here. That doesn't mean that they can't. Doesn't mean that they won't. But nothing is served by pretending that they are. Fun story. Paul Lee, this motherfucker. Paul Lee and his voter fraud. I will admit something to you. Not a fan of the Paul Lee. However, when I took a cursory glance at the thing, I thought, they're probably pushing too hard on this. Voter fraud? Because he offered to buy a meal or two for everybody who voted if they show their sticker. What the fuck is wrong with that? And then, instead of just simping for my position, I'm like, well, let me look a little deeper into it or reread it and see what I'm missing. Oh, if I am elected, I'll buy everybody who votes a meal. Oh. Now, before you go into whataboutism, people, but Trump said, you'll get a stimulus check if I get reelected, I'll get all that through and blah, blah, blah. Politicians do it all. Yeah. This is a mayoral election of a very tiny place where he's literally offering to buy a meal to anybody who votes, whether they vote for him or not, but only if I get elected. I will say this, and this is just pure conjecture on my part. I think if Paul Lee wasn't such an asshole, and I think if he wasn't so belligerent, and hadn't been such a pain in the ass, and so fucking dogmatic and horrible throughout that election. I actually listened to the debates, by the way, and the fucking live video presentations from Paul Lee and others. I listened to all that sniping, if you'll remember back from those videos and screen captures and all that shit. I would venture to guess that if Paul Lee wasn't so fucking scummy and shady, and the way that he talked about the other candidates in this really belligerent way, in this desperate attempt to win, even offering to buy people, I bet they wouldn't be pushing this issue with Georgia in general if Paul Lee wasn't just such a fucking asshole. And so I will reserve judgment on whether I think it's deserved or not, and just savor the flavor that it's happening. Commentary. Oh, Paul Lee. Commentary. I took extensive notes. And I should have been better prepared. Where did I put the notes? Oh crap, I didn't do the unboxing. Let me do this unboxing. I got two things here. I don't know, this big thing. I'm going to open that second. Because bigger is better and biggest is best. If you take my advice, I'll outshine all the rest. Okay. Oh, this shirt's wrapped doubly good. Try not to look at it. Well, see if there's a note. There is not. Lately, it's people off the Twitch stream have been sending me things. All right, I'm going to reveal this shirt the same time as you get to see it, same time I get to see it. 1, 2, 3. What's this? Oh. Hotness. I believe that is good old Cherry. And I'll put this shirt on over my Walter White shirt, The Ultimate Honor. Sweet. Look at that. Look good. Look real good. All right, let's do the second opening. Sorry, where did that folder go? Ooh, I might need scissors for this one. Or not. Oh, this one does have a note. To help with getting healthier. Best of luck. See you soon. But they didn't put their name. What is this? Oh, snap. It's a big old water bottle. Oh, I guess it's a gallon thing that's got these things written to inspire you to keep drinking the water. You know what? I need this. I absolutely need this. Drinking more water is one of those things I always want to do. And now I have every reason in the world to do it. Just fill that thing up in the morning. Drink it down during the day. Thank you. People sent me this like low carb tortillas. I'm going to definitely do something with those soon. And these chicken chips. Really, really great. All right, let's get to the commentary. Sorry about that. But you know, it's cool. I honestly don't need my notes for this from the AEW show. But I will show you this. Look at this. Daly's Place. I didn't know what Daly's was. But then near the hotel where I was staying, Daly's was like a convenience store, gas station kind of thing. Kind of like a QT or Wawa or whatever. And Daly's was like the convenience store part of it. I'm like, oh, so that made sense. Same logo, so Daly's Place. So they own that part of the stadium. Here's what I was really excited about. That I got a hard ticket. Do you remember these? I'm really excited. And then I realized like I was going through great pains to make sure, because, you know, I'm traveling and I go different places every freaking day, it seems like. So I was going through great pains preserving this ticket. And I was like, why am I doing this? And I'm like, because it felt really special to be there. I'll say this right off the bat. Dude, they took my temperature. Like I looked at a screen and it had the outline for my head. And so I just had to line up my head on that screen and it took my temperature. Everything was smooth. Getting the ticket from will call was smooth. QR code scanned with my phone to fill out this questionnaire. Stuff related to COVID. They moved us in and out. They didn't have merchandise on sale, but then they had a couple people answering questions. And so like, you can go on the website right away. And I was like, oh yeah, because, you know, I would get one of those AEW masks, but they took my information down. So the implication is that they were going to send me an AEW mask, which I thought was just really cool, just for me asking questions. Here's what I'm going to talk about. So WrestleMania week and then WrestleMania. So WrestleMania is going to let 30,000 people in the door. That stadium, which is about as many as they let into the Super Bowl, maybe even more. Here's my concern that hopefully will get addressed. WWE has not run a fucking show with a real crowd since COVID began. And all signs point to they were really loose and free with the rules with the guys in the back. So they had outbreaks and they had messed up stuff happen. AEW had people who caught COVID too, don't get me wrong. But the protocol at this AEW Dynamite show, we were legitimately distanced. at least a row between each one of us and multiple seats between each one of us. I wasn't near anybody. And the one time a guy wanted to move to the row behind me just because he wanted a little more room because he was with his group of friends. And he moved in the row before. They were right on him and just asked him nicely to move back. They were very determined. And every staff member I saw had that mask. And the way that they were careful with the wrestlers that were going to be up front to watch from that front area, super careful. And then Dory Funk Jr. was there, and Marty, his wife, and I talked to him briefly, but all masked up. Here's what I'm worried about. There's two different things that I talk about, and that's rules. And I have no doubt that the WWE will have relatively strict rules in place. I hope they follow the same protocols that they did at AEW. AEW has led the way during this COVID stuff. They figured out how to do crowds first with the wrestlers, and then letting people in with a great deal of space between them, right? And the WWE has been reluctant to do these things that AEW has done first and done well. Well, at WrestleMania, they better follow them all. The way that AEW does their crowds, the WWE is going to need to do it and then some. And if they have too much pride about that shit, they're going to pay a heavy price. Now, the Super Bowl happened in Tampa. I didn't get to go, even though I thought I was going to get to go to. That was a bummer. But what was less alarming than the Super Bowl was the night before, when thousands of people who were obviously going to the Super Bowl just packed Ybor City. No mask, young people being dumb. Something that you expect to see in Florida, if I'm being brutally honest. And people can go like, oh, masks and they're political and blah. Dude, this is what I liked about AEW and the way they handled it. The idea was, we say that we're concerned about you and concerned about the boys, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And it's no more complicated than that. It was more than just the rules that were in place. This is the other part. It's the social mores aspect. The aspect was, look, we're all doing this, so just be cool. And that's what I would hope for WrestleMania. Look, this is what we're going to do, so just be cool about it. I listen to a lot of Georgia promoters have this excuse of, I'm not going to mask the fans up because then they won't buy tickets. It's bullshit. Then you're not a leader. Then your influence is not as great as you purport it to be then. Because if you just created a situation like, look, we're going to do this mask thing and we're going to separate ourselves a little bit because we want to keep doing these shows and we want to make sure everybody's safe. Like I said before, if you're putting out this line, the safety of the wrestlers and the fans is of utmost concern to us, then you just have to walk the walk and create a situation, because there are shows where the wrestlers wear masks in the back, and then there are shows where they don't. And I've been to both. But you know who wears a mask? Me. And you know who hasn't gotten COVID? Me. And I know a number of people who can't say the same. Point being, for WWE and WrestleMania, yes, there will be the rules in regards to how to behave at WrestleMania. But if they can create the atmosphere where it's like, we're so glad WrestleMania is back. We're so glad we're going to do these 2 nights in front of 30,000 people. Folks, let's just make this as cool an experience as possible and relieve everybody's anxiety as much as possible. And if someone's going to fucking bitch, moan, cry, and whine about wearing a mask, then stay fucking home. Now, the shows that are running WrestleMania week. Like I said, it's not the Super Bowl itself that made me go, ah. It was all those pictures from the night before of the thousands of people packed in together from all over the country, no doubt, and then spreading that shit all over the place. Like, come on. Can we just fucking get through this shit? And it's those WrestleMania week shows. Now, the ones with featuring ICW, Action, No Peace, those 2 or 3 days in a row, that one I have every confidence in that one. Why? Because one of the guys who's running that thing is Ron Nemi. And Ron Nemi, I've seen him in action at fucking shows. I've seen him in action at the ICW shows. And those deathmatch guys who you think, like, if anybody's going to be like, fuck the rules, bullshit. They've got their thing on IWTV. It's one of the most viewed things ever. So they fucking mask up and they follow the rules. And guess what? Even that outlaw badass crowd does it. And it's all gravy. Because the atmosphere is Danny D'Amato sets and Ron Nemi helps enforce is, guys, we want this thing to fucking be a success and we don't want a bunch of extra bullshit. We just want to sit here and we want to enjoy this show. So let's just fucking do it. If the WWE can take on that atmosphere along with the serious nature and the customer service approach that AWE showed me at frickin' Daly's place for Dynamite, they're going to be all right. But if they're stubborn about it and they create this atmosphere where other people take on this era of like, I'm not going to enjoy being at those shows. And I won't be the only one. What this commentary about is this, in essence. It is the atmosphere and the social mores that you help to create and contribute to that matter more, or at least as much, as the hard and fast rules themselves. The reason a lot of people are irritating on social media isn't just what they're saying, but the mentality behind what they're saying. That's what makes you an asshole. And wrestling right now is in a unique position to put on its biggest show of the year and have all of the associated stuff throughout the week. Where this is where a lot of the indies are looking to make their name and make their money and all this other stuff. And what I would urge is that there's an atmosphere created where we're going to do the smart thing. And we're going to do the socially mores intelligent thing of creating an atmosphere where we're like, look, this shit's happening in Florida. There's people here from all over the place. Let's just fucking be smart. And if your instinct is to go like, well, but, and you're going to start throwing statistics at me and the size of the holes and masks and all this kind of shit. Look, I've been masking up. And I'll just say this. I've probably been in contact with the public more than any of you. I had to scrape and scramble throughout this last year. Doing these mystery shopper jobs. And I've been in the thick of it. I've seen it. I've seen people fist fighting security guards over having to put on a mask at Walmart. I've seen differences all over Florida and Georgia for that matter. I've seen all of this stuff. And all I can tell you is, I know, I can predict based on the towns where I'm going to work what it's going to be like because of the social mores that are created, not the individual laws of the county, but just the attitudes of the people in general. I already got the vaccine and I got my booster. I got the 2 shots already. I'm good. But still, and I've been good. I haven't gotten it at all. But that's because I'm really careful. But because, why am I careful? Because I got these kids. Yeah. And again, I urge Georgia promoters, Florida promoters, WWE. There are people who are doing it right and effectively. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel or impose your own weird political ideas onto the rules, or assuming that fans, you're going to simp to the fans and be scared, oh, they might not buy a ticket if I make them wear a mask. Bullshit. People have gotten used to wearing that stuff. So just do it. Just do it. Create the atmosphere. But Steve, that's not how I really feel and I would be faking it. Welcome to the wrestling business. The WWE is going to pretend that they missed you and not just your money. Right? Ultimately, the point is people who are leading in wrestling, promoters, bookers, the boys with more prestige, the women with more prestige, create that atmosphere that you want to have and embody it yourself. It's not about rules, right? Like this debate about, oh, they don't share my poster and then don't book the boys. That's a rule. And it's a stupid rule. How about creating an atmosphere where people want to share your shit? Where they're encouraged to, in a respectful manner. And watch the better results that you get. I always say about my kids, I'm just going to be a little immodest here. I think I've helped raise some great kids. And the reason is because I've worked around kids my whole life. So I knew that it wasn't about imposing rules or having to spank them and all this other nonsense that shitty parents I hear talking about all the time. Didn't have to do any of that. Hey, Veronica,
Yeah?
have you ever been spanked?
No, because spanking's weird and wrong.
Never had to spank this kid. Now, you'd say, well, you're just lucky. You have this inherently good kid. And part of that is probably true. But the other part is, I was training those kids to be Jedis from day one. And that was a harder route because that was teaching them how to think, teaching them how to make proper decisions, teaching them to ask questions and answer it for themselves, which is a lot harder than tote this barge, follow this rule, do this thing or else. That's how you treat prisoners. And I never wanted them to feel like prisoners. So do me a favor, wrestling people and WWE. Create an atmosphere where people are encouraged and encourage each other to do the proper thing so we don't have to end up living in a prison. Because my God, the second that I feel like I'm in a prison when I go to a damn wrestling show, instead of excited to be there and holding on to my ticket, then this shit really is dead. And I don't want that, and I would imagine neither do you. This has been Full Disclosure.